It is common for organizations to introduce performance metrics with the goal of improving results. Yet, these same metrics can lead to the opposite outcome. This occurs because measurement is not a passive active observation. It is an active intervention that changes the system it is intended to track.
To illustrate, consider a technology company that wants to increase both the productivity and the quality of its software. Management introduces a new performance metric. Programmers will now be compensated based on the number of lines of code they produce. The result is the inverse of what was intended. The software programs become unnecessarily long and inefficient. This focus on quantity ultimately undermines the goal of quality, making the software more difficult to maintain and less effective overall. This outcome can seem counterintuitive, because the initial logic for using performance metrics appears sound. The common assumption is that measurement is a neutral act of observation. The belief is that it provides an objective view of a system, which allows for targeted improvements without altering the system itself. However, measurement is not a passive process. It is an active intervention that fundamentally changes the system it is observing. When the output of a system is measured and that information is used to make decisions, a feedback loop is created. Information about the current state is fed back into the system as an input, which directly influences its future state. A simple mechanical example is a car's cruise control. The system constantly measures the car's speed, compares it to a set target, and adjusts the engine's fuel flow accordingly. This continuous loop of measuring and adjusting keeps the car at a stable speed. Feedback loops can be self-correcting, as with cruise control, where they work to stabilize a system around a target. They can also be self-reinforcing, where a change is amplified, causing the system to accelerate in one direction. When a performance metric is introduced into an organization, it creates a similar feedback loop. In this case, instead of adjusting a mechanical component, the information feeds back to people, influencing their decisions and their actions.
Unlike mechanical systems, human systems introduce a layer of complexity because individuals have their own goals and motivations.
This is described by the principal-agent problem. This type of conflict occurs in any situation where one person, the agent, acts on behalf of another, the principal, for example, an employee acting on behalf of an employer. The problem arises from two core conditions. First, the principal and the agent often have different interests. Second, there is an information imbalance. The agent typically has more information about their own actions and effort than the principal is able to observe.
The employer's primary goal is the overall success of the organization. The employee's goal, in contrast, tends to focus on optimizing their own performance evaluation and compensation, which are often tied directly to the specific metric being measured.
Therefore, an employee's response to the feedback from a performance metric is filtered through their personal interests, which may not align perfectly with the broader interests of the organization.
This divergence of interests explains why well-intentioned metrics can produce unintended and often negative results. When a metric is designed to measure and reward only one component of a complex role, it creates a powerful incentive to focus on that single component. This leads to what is known as a multitasking problem. Effort shifts exclusively to the task that is measured and rewarded. Other essential but unmeasured responsibilities are neglected. As a result, the broader goal is often undermined because the act of measurement itself changes what people prioritize. A common example can be found in education. When teacher performance is measured solely by student test scores, the curriculum often narrows to focus only on material that appears on the test. Other valuable aspects of learning tend to be de-emphasized. This behavior is explained by the equal compensation principle. This principle states that for an employee to treat multiple tasks as equally important, those tasks must be made equally valuable to them in terms of compensation and evaluation. If a specific metric makes one activity more valuable to an employee than others, that employee will rationally reallocate their effort toward that single activity. This is a logical response to the incentives provided.
Ultimately, measurement is not a passive observation of a system. It is an active intervention that changes the system itself. By creating focus, it also creates an unavoidable trade-off. Whatever is measured is prioritized, often at the expense of everything that is not.